Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dribbz Talks podcast. We're bringing it to you real, raw and uncut. A safe place where we can talk about anything and everything. So like, share and subscribe. But most importantly, keep it locked. Everything's gonna be just fine. Everything's gonna be okay. Just take one step at a time. That's what the leaflets say.
Hi everyone, this is Baby D, and you're listening to the Dribbz Talks podcast on Spotify and YouTube.
Yes, people, welcome back to another episode of Dribbz Talks, the podcast where we invite various guests to jump into the hot seat and spread awareness for relevant and important topics. Now, tonight, I'm joined by Kim O'Callaghan-Tate. She's a passionate advocate for the growth and recognition of women's football with a deep commitment to gender equality and the empowerment of female athletes. Now, Kim has dedicated herself to raising awareness about the challenges and the opportunities within the sport of football. She joins me tonight with the intention of breaking down these barriers and inspiring future generations of players, and to ensure that women's football receives the respect it certainly deserves. Now, with all that being said, welcome to the show, Kim. How you doing?
Hey Dribbz, I'm good, thanks. You?
Yeah, I'm good. Do you like that little intro?
This all right?
Yeah? Is that podcast done now? Yeah? Should we just shut it off?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm off.
Are you ready for this then?
Let's go.
Okay, let's do it. So there's so much I want to jump into but I think it's really important that you explain to my listeners who may never have heard of you just a little introduction into your past and your current involvement in the sport of women's football.
Okay, this could go on a while then. So I started watching football when I was about 8 years old. My dad is a huge Wolves fan and started taking me to the Molineux to go and watch the football, and I just became obsessed from that age. It was always something that was huge in our family and was never something that we... It was abnormal or anything like that. But then, you know, obviously as you start talking to people at school, you realise that girls don't do that sort of thing, or I realised that girls don't do that sort of thing, and kind of got a little bit of kudos amongst the lads, that they were like, oh, she does know what she's talking about with football. Rubbish at it, never been able to play, I can't kick a ball, but understanding the game. So from the age of 8, going to watch the Wolves, you know, we got a season ticket, you know, in the South Bank with my dad, with all the men throwing us up in the air, you know, getting all excited when we scored the goals and everything, and they really, really did look after me there, and it was just part of our psyche. Then, you know, when I got married and had kids and stuff, and, you know, my husband at the time, my now ex-husband, he wanted to start a football team. So again, it was something that we were both really passionate about with football. And I think it is very difficult to be with someone who doesn't like football, because they just don't get how much it takes over your life. So he started a football team, and I very much helped him in the background, you know, more around the administrative side of things, ordering kit, you know, helping the team out, all sorts of things like that. So I got to understand grassroots football at that point, and It is a whole different beast. Then my daughter, she was perhaps about 8-9 years old. I genuinely can't remember now. And there was a local team that was looking to start up a girls' football team, and somebody tagged me in a post on Facebook and said, oh, do you think your daughter would be interested in this? Oh, yeah, maybe. She can't kick a ball, but hey, let's go for it. And my husband at the time, he was like, she can't play football, no chance. So, okay, let's get her along and see if she enjoys it. So there was only a couple of girls at the time, and, you know, a couple of coaches approached us and said, look, we want to start up a girls' team. You know, we're looking to try and get more girls along. If we get more girls, then we'll start a team up, but we're needing a coach. Anyway, a few weeks later, they came and sort of said, look, we found a coach. We found a woman who's interested in doing it. She's an ex-teacher, and, you know, she's really interested in getting the team going. So she came along, and I said, look, if you need any help with anything, give me a shout. I'll come and help. You know, my husband run a team for a long time. So next thing I know, she's put me on the level 1 coaching training. So I'm there becoming a football coach, and then she turns around and says, right, I'm starting another girls team, this one's yours. And I'm like, right, okay, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing, but hey, let's go for it. I'm going to give this a shot and see if we can coach some girls football. Like I said, I can't play football. I can't kick a ball to save my life, but I understand the rules of the games. But it wasn't about that. It was about girls playing football, getting the girls involved and making sure that we gave them a safe space to play, but also encouraging them that if this is something you want to do, then this is something you can do, and we're going to enable that to happen. And from then on, it just kind of spiraled within the club. We were having girls join us, we got people involved, got coaches involved. I was never a coach to the level that I would need to be, but I was a manager, and I made sure that it was about pulling people in who could coach the girls. I could do some things, of course I could. I wasn't absolutely naff at it, but and that's what it was all about, pulling people in. To our surprise, my daughter could kick a ball, and she was absolutely bloody brilliant.
Weren't she just?
And it just kind of spiraled from there. So that's kind of how I got involved, and that's where we're at now.
And the rest is history, eh?
Well, sort of.
So, keep it on the lines of history. I want to take my listeners on a slight history lesson here, related to the sport of women's football. Now, because I think this is a particular decision that was made way back before any of our times, Kim, it had the biggest impact on how women were seen in football and in society on a whole. But when this decision eventually got lifted, women still continued to fight for acceptance in every aspect of every sport. Now, on the 5th of December 1921, the FA announced a ban on women's games being played on professional grounds and pitches that were entirely associated with the FA. Now, the FA were quoted to have declared, "The game of football is quite unsuitable for females and ought not to be encouraged." Now, firstly, Kim, what's your views on this ban ever coming in the first place?
We live in a different world now. Back in the 1920s, it was different, and women accepted that. It should never have happened. But that's speaking from a woman from the noughties, from the 90s, from the, the 20s and stuff. Back in the 1920s, it just wasn't done. So I do understand. I don't accept it, but I kind of understand, because it was men do this, women do that.
True.
So, yeah, it should never have happened. It's the length of time that it took for that ban to be lifted.
50 years, Kim, that's a long time.
Not until the 1970s.
How mad's that? I mean, to me, a 50-year ban, if you think about it, Kim, that's an entire generation of women lost to the game.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? That's crazy.
It's quite interesting.
It's almost sad.
It's quite interesting, because my nan, she was a child of the World War. So she's in her 90s now, and she looks at my daughter, and she's really quite passionate about what my daughter's doing, and how much she enjoys the football, and how much she's achieving. And I know my nan looks at her as if to say, I wish I'd have had that opportunity. I wish I'd have had that chance, because my nan was really sporty, my nan was really intelligent, but it just wasn't the done thing for women to do back then.
Yeah.
And even, a real prime example, it's an age thing. So my granddad, no disrespect to him at all, and I absolutely love them to bits, but my granddad, looking at the women's boxing, why are women boxing? They shouldn't be doing that. It's not a ladylike thing to do. And, and there's a lot of people that feel that about women. And I said, well, why is it not a ladylike thing to do? Well, they shouldn't be beating on each other. Who says they shouldn't be beating on each other? If they've chosen to do that,
Absolutely.
Then that's what they should do. And that's the same with women's football. If they've chosen to play football, why shouldn't they? Just because it affects your masculinity, because effectively that's what it is.
Yep.
Just because you don't like it, because it's challenging your position in the world, and that's what it is, and that's why people are so against it. But it's an age thing. They're not used to it. They grew up in that time where women did what they were told to do, and women are changing that now. Women are changing that history. If that's what we want to do, that's what we can do, and we need to allow our young girls to be able to do that and to be those strong, independent women. If that means playing football and putting on a pair of football boots, then they should go for it.
100%.
Oh, so you're getting me on my soapbox.
No, this is exactly what I need you to do, Kim. This is exactly what I need you to do, because the passion is there. Do you know what I mean? I can see it, and I've seen it for as long as I've known you, Kim. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I hope my listeners hear that as well, because it's all about the passion. And if you haven't got the passion, if you're kind of sat there just going, well, it's up to them what they want to do. A, it doesn't make good listening, and B, there's just kind of no point you being here, Kim. But the fact that you're passionate about this is one of the many reasons why I invited you down. So do you think kind of that was more an era thing then, yeah?
It's an era thing, and it takes a long time to change that. It's a generational thing, and even now there's still a lot of, there's a lot of kickback from it. And I think there's a lot of kickback from it, mainly from men young boys, and I think that's not their fault. It's because of the environment that they're brought up in. So if they're brought up in that world where they think it's wrong for women to do that, and unfortunately there are still an awful lot of people out there, like my granddad and his generation. He loves watching my daughter play football, but that was a prime example. But there's a lot of people out there that don't accept it, and it's not because it's wrong. It just wasn't the done thing when they were younger. And that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly that. Now, when I have guests on that have a particular passion for spreading awareness of any kind, I like to do a bit of research, Kim. So I found these statistics at must have been about 1 a.m. this morning while I was scrolling through article after article, and it read, and this is quite crazy, 60% of fans, 60% of most fans believe that the potential of women's football has been hindered by the ban. And it mentioned in the, and as I mentioned, like in the last question, researchers revealed that 69% of fans believe women's football doesn't receive enough media coverage, while 65% say female players aren't promoted as role models the same way as male football players are. Would you say that's pretty accurate to say?
Absolutely, 100%. But just to address some of that, the ban has hindered women's football. The way, without trying to sound like I'm on my soapbox,
do it.
The way that women have been treated in the past, and the societal position that women have had and held previously, because that's the way that it was, that has hindered women, and things have started to change, and women have started to change, and a lot of men are changing with it, and absolutely so they should be. But a lot of the problem is that people compare women's football with men's football. It's not the same. Women have not been playing football for as long. Women are technically very different, physically very different, not as strong as men. There's no two ways about that. But you're comparing apples with pears. You can't compare apples with pears. It's a completely different game. Personally, I actually really enjoy watching men's football. It's a lot more physical. But the girls' game is, the female game is technical. And watching the women and the inspiration that they're providing to those young girls is incredible. And they're like, I can do that. They're actually seeing somebody. You need to look at, Mary Earps, Chloe Kelly, and the standing that they've now got. And girls are seeing girls doing well rather than seeing boys and men doing well and thinking that's the person that I've got to aspire to. I can't aspire to that because I'm a woman. Now you bloody well can.
Absolutely.
And that's absolutely what we should be. But equally, when you look at the funding, and that I read an awful lot on the social media, and I try to understand different points of views. And, there's a lot of people that say, men's football is funding women's football. It shouldn't be that. They should be making their own money. Well, we've been held back for so long because we weren't actually allowed to play in FA stadiums until the 1970s. Then, of course, women have been held back. That money has got to come from somewhere. And surely you want to see your daughters, your sisters, your mothers doing well and supporting that. It's not going to impact your status in life. It's not going to impact men's football. All it's going to do is going to encourage a whole new generation of women to actually be inspired and do something.
Definitely. Far
better that our girls are out there on the football pitch than on the corner smoking fags or drinking WKD like we used to when we were kids.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And there's that vicious circle in there, like grandparents may not agree with women doing much, then they have children, and then the parents don't agree with much, and then they have kids, and it just spirals, doesn't it? And it's all about breaking that stigma. And for me, growing up with my mom as a single parent, I watched my mom do jobs, I mean, it's a complete cliche to say, but jobs that were men jobs and women jobs, do you know what I mean? So mom even got to the point where she taught me how to shave, taught me how to fix a puncture on my bike, do you know what I mean? And like back in the day, that would be the man's job to show the son how to shave and fix the puncture on the bike because that's physical, so that's a man's job. But yeah, so me growing up with that, seeing my mom do both sides of the coin, like now I've grown up and the worst thing I ever hear is, a woman's place is in the kitchen. I hate stuff like that. It riles me. And I guess it's because I watched mom do both sides of the job. And, and now, because of that, my kids will grow up with the morals of, there's no set jobs for set genders. And yeah, it's like a vicious circle, I think. I really do. It's going to take a long time. I mean, for that to change, and I think things are going a long way for it to change. And you just need to look at how women's
sport, women's football in particular, has exploded.
Absolutely.
And it has exploded. And how well the women did in the Euros and the World Cup has, it's changed everything. And we saw such a huge influx of girls come to play football as a result of that. It tapers off. It will start again once we have that next explosion. And it's going to take time. But having these women as strong role models for our young girls it's phenomenal. And what it's done, we know what it's done for our girls and what it continues to do for these young ladies.
Yep.
But it's not about it is about acceptance. Accept it. This is happening. This is a good thing. This is not a bad thing. And people who are against it or try to fight it, or the social media idiots that sit behind their keyboards and just decide to slag off the women's game. Why? What are you getting out of it?
Yeah.
I will never understand that, because this is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Are you getting out of it the fact that you don't want your woman to actually be away from the kitchen? Because this is what it sounds like to me, because women are actually going out there and doing something that they enjoy. I mean, I will never, ever, ever agree that women and men should play football together. As a kickabout and things like that, yeah, but the physicality is so different.
Absolutely.
Men are so much stronger than women physically. There's no two ways about that. And people will get hurt. You should never combine that, but don't compare it. It's like comparing apples with pears.
Yeah.
It's a different game.
100%. Now, to me, the lack of representation, it has real effects, because another statistic that I found was, this one's a bit mad, almost half of the nation, so 49%, Kim, admit that they can't name no more than 2 professional female footballers. What's your views on that, Kim? Because, there's many men out there in society that can name every single player in all the men's football team and the coaches and other staff that are related to the team. But when it comes to the women, just under half of our nation can't name any more than 2 players.
That's okay, because there's a lot more people that can name more than 2 players now than were able to name a couple of years ago.
True.
It's growing, it's changing. And again, it's okay. If they can't name them, they don't want to name them. They're not interested in the women's sport. And I'm actually okay with that. But if you're not interested in it, it doesn't mean that somebody else isn't interested in it. It doesn't mean that you should stop somebody else watching it or try to belittle them for watching it or sporting it. So yes, there are a lot of people that can't name 2 players. There's still a lot of more than 2 players, but there's still a lot of people that can't name 1 football player from the men's teams.
I guess.
They're not interested.
Yeah.
And I get that, and I'm cool with that. But you only need to look at the stadiums, and you look at the Women's Premier League, the WSL, sorry. You need to look at who are the people that are actually going to watch those games. It's all young girls and women that actually feel safe and feel like it's somewhere that they could and should be.
I must say, they are like because we've been to so many of the women's games, like Wembley and everything. I must say, they're a very family orientated place. You don't get the lager lout yobbos and all that. It's pretty chill, to be honest with you.
I've done both. As I said, I grew up from the age of 8 going to watch the Wolves. We sat in the South Bank. Anybody that's a Wolves fan sat in the South Bank in the 1980s and 1990s is a bit of an eye-opener as an 8, 10, 12, 14-year-old kid. It's great fun. So I've been all of that. I've done all the chanting. It was the one place that my dad allowed me to swear, and I was able to get away with it. I've been to the women's game, and it's a very different environment, but both of them have a place to be. I've been to the men's games on my own, and somebody tried to sexually assault me at a men's game. Seriously? In a stadium. But it doesn't stop me from going. It doesn't stop me from wanting to go and sit there. But by God, do I feel safe at a women's game? It doesn't mean that I don't feel safe at a men's game, but it's it's comparing apples with pears. It's a completely different environment. It's a different culture. And surely there is a place for both. If people want to watch it, then there is a place to do it. Yeah,
no, I get that. So on a more personal level then, Kim, it's up to you how much detail or how brief you are with these answers, but going back to your youth, Kim, do you recall any moments where you felt discriminated within sports? I'm not even talking football, just within sports in general, just for the sake of your gender.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was very, very sporty at school. There were certain sports that girls were allowed to play and boys were allowed to play. So we had to play netball, hockey, rounders. The boys were allowed to play rugby, football, and everything else that counts. Girls are allowed to play a lot more of those now. They get the opportunity to play rugby, cricket, football if they want to. When I do remember when I first started watching football, and my dad was taking my brother to the football matches, and I remember turning around to my dad, "Are you going to take me one time?" Because I'd actually quite like to go and watch football, and it was all like a bit, oh wow, she wants to go and watch football. But then he took me. I wouldn't say that was discriminating against, but again, it was that thing where that's not really the right thing to do. Girls don't go and watch football so much. Girls did not have the opportunity. I certainly didn't have the opportunity that girls have now. There were no football clubs for girls. I didn't play any grassroots sports outside of school. The one thing that I do remember, and you could never imagine somebody doing this now, but PE, when we were doing athletics and stuff at school, we had to wear like these horrible pant things. So you'd wear a t-shirt and it was like these pants, and I can't even remember what it was. And you didn't see the boys doing things like that. Why would that be allowed? Again, that was discrimination, but it was, it's acceptable. I said, well, I'm not doing that. Well, then you don't get to do it. And I'm like, you can't do that. But it was horrible. I can just see these blue things now that they used to make us wear. It was absolutely horrific.
It's crazy, isn't it?
But it was the opportunity. The opportunities were not there in the way. I mean, I would love to have played football when I was at school, and we did try to start up a football team. I was shocking. But we got a couple of the girls playing, but it just, that it just got looked at. It just didn't happen. So yeah, the discrimination was there. Of course it was.
And was it to the point where you made, because I don't know if this is just with adolescence now, Kim, but if you've got something to say, Kim, you're the type of woman that would say it. You don't hold back. I'm imagining that you were the same at school. I can't imagine you being quiet as a mouse, Kim. So like, if there was something you didn't agree with and you kind of raised it with, please don't take offense to that last comment anyway. No, not at all. And you raised it with, because I meant it with niceness.
I know you did. I know, yeah.
Know that.
Oh yeah.
And you raised it with a teacher or a member of staff. How do you think that would have gone down? I mean, you've already said there, it was almost like, well, if you don't do this, you're not doing the sport. There wasn't like we can do this to make you feel more comfortable. I'm guessing it would have fell upon deaf ears.
Oh, there's two things to that. I do remember when I was at my secondary school. I'm not going to name the school. When I was at my secondary school, they wanted to start a student council, and I went and spoke to the teachers. I said, I'd really like to be there. We don't want you here if you just want to be there to cause trouble. And that was the type of person that I was. But it was about standing up for your rights.
Absolutely.
What I'm proud of very much now is my daughter. She is getting those opportunities that I probably felt that I never had, and I think that's because things are changing. It's still really damn hard out there, but in a way it's probably more hard. It's a lot harder for our teenagers now than it was when we were at school, but there's different sets of challenges that each of us had. I think I love seeing my daughter doing and speaking out and saying the things that she does that I very much tried to and wanted to say when I was at school. And that just proves how things have changed. She's an absolute apple of my eye, and she's she's me reincarnated.
She's a mini you, Kim. Come on.
Yeah, she is. She's me reincarnated in a way, but she's now getting that platform.
Yeah.
That platform's being allowed more so, and I do hope people of my generation and previous generations are the ones that have paved the way for that to start to happen.
Absolutely.
And made that conversation start to change. And there's a lot of people, a lot of women, a lot of men out there that have allowed that to happen. And it gives our daughters and our sons much more of a platform to be 100%. Able to speak their worth.
So when you experienced like discrimination as a youth, although it was almost the norm back then, like did it ever affect your confidence and passion for sport in general?
No, definitely not.
Still very focused on what you loved.
No, I mean, I think if you look at football, for example, it was very much something that was in our family. It was something that we used to do. With my ex-husband, it was something that he certainly embraced. Loved having a wife who loved football. I'm married again now. I've remarried, and my husband now absolutely loves football, and it's just that passion that goes through. If you love something, that you're going to carry on regardless of what people say.
Is he a Wolves fan, Kim?
No.
What is he?
Bloody Liverpool fan, isn't he? Oh, I know. It's painful.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
But no, I mean, that discrimination does exist, but I think then if you're passionate enough about it, you will continue to push through.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we did then, and that's why I've said I think a lot of us have carved the way for our girls to get the opportunities that they're getting now, and our girls will carve the way for girls to get even more opportunities
Absolutely.
in the future, and that's certainly what we're seeing through the grassroots
and hopefully
system.
it gets easier and easier. I mean, yeah, we're very fortunate, as in our children now, what a time for them to progress from teenager to adolescence, because it's never been so important now for people to stand up, whereas you said, back when you was kind of your daughter's age, it wasn't really heard of standing up and stuff. So it is a good thing. And talking from my experience of attending school in the early 90s, when PE came around, it was like you said, it was totally normal and accepted that the lads did football for PE and the girls did netball.
Yep.
Simple.
Yep.
I like to think that we've shown progression within our schools now, but truthfully, I just don't know, Kim, if that is still the case now, or are the girls being encouraged to take part in both sports without set genders coming into it? Are you aware of what it's like now?
I think I mean, I can speak about the primary schools, how it was when my daughter was there about 5 years ago, and there was no opportunity for girls to play football in the primary school that she attended. And
Right.
it's something that she fought for because obviously we'd already started up the grassroots team. So we'd already started up the grassroots team, and she wanted to be able to play football in school because she felt that it was hampering her. So we did an awful lot to try and push that. And we know that school now are doing probably more girls football than they do boys football, which is a real shame because that's now hindering the boys. And it shouldn't be about one for one and not for the other.
No.
This is about equality.
Mm-hmm.
Equality is not about being downbeat on men or anything like that. This is about genuine equal opportunities. And, that's where people get feminism very confused. They think feminists hate men. No, feminists don't hate men. This is about general equality and standing up for women's rights, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Secondary school, we know that girls are playing football, but it's not on the curriculum as regular as what
Right,
football is for
okay.
boys. And there's a lot that's been trying to happen in order to get girls to play more football. I think there was a campaign on Friday, This Girl Can, or This Girl Can Play. And a lot of the local sports clubs and things had activities that were going on to get girls playing football. So the company that my son works for, they had a whole competition that was literally just for girls football.
Nice.
Around the This Girl Can Play Day. So there are more opportunities, but there's still a lot more that can be done. And I think, one thing that we have found is that perhaps football, if we're talking football specifically, isn't on the agenda so much for girls because girls don't want to play football, because it's still seen to a degree that girls shouldn't be playing football because they're living in that family, that environment that still thinks in an old-fashioned way girls don't play football. And then when girls start playing football, they realise that actually, there is something else to be had here.
Yeah.
And girls, anybody actually, don't know what they don't like until they try it.
That's very true. That is very, very true. Looking into what the FA have researched into local schools, I found that data shows that 41% of secondary schools offer equal access to football for girls within PE lessons. Now, while that's amazing to hear, and it's really good to read and research into that, it's a form of progression. So that's showing that it's positive to how it used to be back when, how you've explained. But there's still over half of females that are massively missing out there. Do you know what I mean? So what's your opinion on that, Kim?
My understanding is that all girls should have access to play football at school.
Right.
It should be on the curriculum for everyone. That 41%, now I don't understand whether that means that some girls don't get to play football at all, or like I explained, it's not as often or as frequent as
Right.
what it is for boys.
Okay.
And that is probably the case, in fact, that there isn't an equal opportunity there. We know that there are girls that don't get the opportunity to play football. for whatever reason, but there is a requirement that it should be on the curriculum for every girl to play football. But I do believe that statistic is probably because they don't get to play as much football as the boys. That's my understanding.
No, that's fine.
And again, this is about equal opportunities. When girls start playing football, they actually enjoy it. So again, my daughter will be a prime example. She said, we managed to get some of the girls playing football in PE because she's been pushing and pushing and pushing so hard for girls to play more football in their general PE lessons. And she was like, so-and-so's actually really enjoyed it. And I said, and that's the thing. The girls need to have their eyes open that you can play football, what football is all about, and then get that opportunity. But you've also got PE teachers that still think the old way, so you've got the male PE teachers teaching the boys and the female teachers teaching the girls. And with all due respect, they probably don't know enough about football in order to bring those girls on and to encourage them to play football.
Totally agree with you.
But, if you just need to look at the curriculum and, why are they studying, about how to dissect a frog when they're never going to need that going forward, in their future life. And, the person wants to be a lawyer or something. But you've got to give them a broad experience of everything so that they know what they do and don't like.
Yeah. I often say this with schools in general, especially, mentioning no names, the previous role that I worked in, with severe special needs children, they were teaching them about historic events. And I'm thinking, teach them about life skills, Kim. Mm-hmm. Buttering bread, doing belts, shoelaces, change for getting on public transport. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy when you think about it. But so going off topic with that then, Kim, so in your experience, how do you think that the media portray women's football compared to men's football?
There's been a change in the last couple of years because the women, they did so well in the Euros and they did so well.
But do you think if they hadn't have done so well?
No,
this wouldn't be as big as it is?
I don't think it would be as big as it is. The funding isn't there for the women's football, and it's deemed that there isn't the interest in women's football. There's only interest in something when it gets media exposure. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
generally speaking, and obviously a lot of that's done different ways these days. But the media exposure is what makes things explode. There isn't as much exposure, but I can honestly say in the last year or so, there is a real intensity in trying to expose it a lot more. So even in the years that I've been involved in girls' football, I mean, how long has it been? 8 years, something like that?
It's got to be that,
I can't remember.
It's got to be 8 years, Kim, yeah, at least.
There has been a change and it has gone a long way, but there is still so far to go.
Yeah.
What I think they have to be very careful about, and this is what I see a lot online, is shoving it down people's throats. And I think there has to be careful, but you can look at that with anything. I think men's football is probably shoved down our throats, but that's because I watch a lot of it. I watch a lot of Sky Sports News and things, and you are seeing women's football being a lot more prominent on the advertising, on showing the matches, and even on the you see on the Sky Sports News, for example, breaking news, and you get that about some women's transfers. That's the first time I've seen it this season.
Right, okay.
And that's brilliant. And that's how it should be, and you're going to get a lot more girls that are encouraged to do that. But then they're also talking about the Women's League for netball as well. And they're actually starting to, televise all of that. Why shouldn't that be? I never saw any of that when I was a kid growing up.
No.
I never saw women's netball, and it's that again, that has only just happened, in the English Roses as well. And all the work that they've been doing. I think it's incredible. I wouldn't want to watch it personally because I'm not actually interested in it anymore. But there's a lot of girls out there that are interested in it.
Yeah.
And just because you're a bloke and you're not interested in it doesn't mean that there aren't other people. Just because you're a woman and you're not interested in it doesn't mean that there aren't other people that aren't interested in it.
100%. Now, how do you think women's football can be better promoted, Kim, to help get the same level of recognition as men's football?
Again, it's this apples and pears things. It's two different sports effectively because you watch the games very differently. It's the funding. The funding has got to be there at grassroots level. There are a lot of issues at grassroots, where
Can you just, for the benefit of my listeners, Kim, just give them a little brief description of what you mean when you just explain about grassroots?
Sorry, yeah.
Because not every listener's going to know what grassroots means.
Yeah, so grassroots football is your Sunday league football, or as what we say with girls is a Saturday league football. You're turning up on a Sunday morning or a Saturday morning, having a kick around on a park, with coaches, and you've got a bit of a mini league. So it's the grassroots football. It's those voluntary clubs like ours that are all run by volunteers. That's grassroots football.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
So there's a lot of issues in terms of facilities and things like that. So, obviously women have different issues to men and have different toilet requirements from men. And the facilities are not there. There's not enough facilities for girls to be able to access that. And that's that is an issue. Also, our pitches are completely and utterly overloaded. So getting access to pitches it is very difficult. Generally speaking, you say it's a boys' league or a mixed league, which personally I don't agree with. On a Sunday, that is all taken up with, that's all pre-booked and there's plenty of pitches available. Generally speaking, the girls' league that plays on a Saturday needs to play on pitches where they've got toilet facilities for obvious reasons.
Yes.
There is also your MJPL, which is Midlands Junior Premier League, that takes place on a Saturday, which is a boys' league, which is kind of a step up from your Sunday league. So it's not professional, but it's that next step up. And does that
sorry to interrupt you there, does that MJPL, does that involve females, or is that strictly boys?
That's strictly boys for those. And
interesting.
The roots are starting to come for the girls, but it's nowhere near like it was.
Yeah.
But then when everybody is tackling and fighting for those pitches, and the girls can only use certain pitches, that does become a problem. You then start to grow the club and you start to grow the girls' provision. Where's everybody going to train? Now, summer training is fine because you can use pitches all over the place and you make it very clear there's no toilet facilities, blah, 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 blah. But where is everyone going to train in the winter? There isn't enough facilities, especially here in Shropshire. It's shocking. So the fighting that we have to try and get pitches is really, really difficult. It needs that impetus of cash. It needs that to be able to get it. And you look at how many Shropshire footballers have actually gone on to a high level. It's so few compared to people from other areas of the country where there's money that's pushed into it. Okay. That's not just girls, that's boys as well.
Right, interesting. Didn't know that.
There are so few footballers really from Shropshire when you look at the geographical area and the number of people that are in this area that have actually gone on to play football. You look in the city areas and the funding that they have for people to play football and the support that they get, we don't get that in Shropshire.
Wow.
It's few and far between. So even if you're just looking at the comparisons between girls and boys football, men's and women's football, there's still an issue when you're looking at the rurality of people as well and where they live and the access to sport. So that is a huge issue as well. But funding is a main issue, and I think changing people's perceptions as well. A big problem that we have in grassroots football is the coaches. So getting the coaches, what we do is all voluntary. It's all voluntary, voluntary work. And the hassle that you can get as well, that you can get from the parents and the trouble you can get. Like, I'm doing this for the fun of it, to try and help kids get out there and play football. And again, this is girls and boys football.
I don't think people realise this, Kim, that like you've said, voluntary, do you know what I mean? You could be doing other things, but you're dedicating your time to help other people. And I don't think people actually realise just what's involved in it. Do you know what I mean?
I've kind of always said, and I've said to my kids, and I say to a lot of people, everybody should volunteer. At some point in their life, they should do some voluntary work.
Yeah.
If you can do voluntary work that is something that you enjoy, then you're on a win-win situation. True. Being a grassroots football coach, being an assistant, being a parent, I nearly said a mum then, being a parent that makes teas on the sidelines, all of that contributes to our children being able to play football and getting them off their computers and getting them out, off whatever it is they do on streets corners that we used to do when we were kids.
Absolutely.
So that's not a bad thing, and it's something that we enjoy. But the grief that you can get as a coach, the grief that you can get, from all of that, and as a parent, you want what's best for your child who's playing football, but that coach is there voluntarily. Now, obviously, there's standards that they have to adhere to, and absolutely rightly so. If somebody's coaching my child to play football, then those standards, have to be met. Girls football, there's a lot of male coaches there. That's not a problem, but it really needs the women there as well to understand, because girls football and the way that girls behave is very, very different to the way that the boys behave. My brother coaches now a boys football team, and I've been along and seen them, and and like I said, my ex-husband coached my son's football team. By God, girls football is so different. The boys are more physical, there's a lot more fisticuffs, but by God, the girls are bitchy. But you need that woman there to understand the needs of girls and understand the needs of women, because with all due respect, there's a lot of well-meaning men there, and they're amazing. All of the men that I've come across that coach women's football have just been incredible and so supportive, but it helps having that woman there on the sideline too.
Yeah. 100%, yeah.
Just for the understanding of the girls and what they're going through and their feelings, and they might have a meltdown on the pitch, completely different to what a boy would do. It helps.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Now, what role, we've obviously mentioned about the media and how it pushes different genders and whatnot, but what role do you think the media and sponsors play in shaping the public's perception of women's football?
Oh God, a huge role, because again, if you're wanting to promote girls' football, people will look at the media and all sorts of different ways of the media, but equally it takes people that they can relate to. In order to listen and to understand that. Ian Wright, he is such a advocate for women's football. You just need to follow him. Ian Wright is just amazing with women's football and the things that he says and the things that he does. And there's some amazing female advocates out there as well that were from the game and things like that. But I think in order to start changing those perceptions, we need people like Ian Wright to in the media and the way that he jumps around and supports it. But I love listening to him commentate on women's football as well, because he's so passionate. But we need that. We need them to do that, and those sorts of impacts will be important, because that will go through on the media, and hopefully that will spread it in a positive way. The sponsorships as well. Sponsors, how much of a role they play? Obviously, it's the money that they put into it. But I think it's very difficult. I know, Wolves, for example, they did have 2 different sponsors a few seasons back for the men's and women's team. So the kits had 2 different sponsors on them. And I know the last couple of seasons they have the same sponsors across all of the kits. Pros and cons of that, and I think if you're looking at being one club, then I think that's important to have one sponsor, because it makes it look like a more cohesive approach.
Yep.
But equally, if you're having different sponsors, are those sponsors more appealing to the women's audience? So it could be that you could have Tampax sponsoring a football team. You're not going to have Tampax sponsoring a men's football team, are you?
No, you're not. Or GHD or something like that. No, you're not.
You're not. So there are pros and cons of that, but I think those sponsors have a big role to play in terms of promoting the football teams and being promoted by their football teams. But it's their role to promote the football teams as well.
Yeah.
Look at us, we're sponsoring such and such a football team. Ed Sheeran sponsors, is it Brighton that he sponsors? I can't remember. But his album actually sponsors a football team.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, that's great, but then what are you doing to promote that football team? What are you doing to do that? Again, you only need to look at the women's football team. So you look at the WSL and you look at those teams that are in the WSL. They're there because of the funding that they've put into it. With all due respect, our owners at Wolves, Fosun, have not put the same funding into the women's football team that other owners from like Man United, Man City, Brighton, for example, Birmingham City, Aston Villa have put into their women's football team. And that's a real shame.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that's got to come from the sponsors, but the sponsors are looking at their exposure, but the sponsors have got to be responsible for some of that exposure themselves.
I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you on that, Kim. Now, with these podcasts, I tend not to follow a pattern or a formula, and I like to mix questions up. Now, for the listeners that aren't aware, how I came to meet the lovely Kim was she was the coach for my daughter's football team, as she said, probably 7-8 years ago now. The Wrekin Lionesses. Kim was so committed to getting the best out of this team and would be stood on the sidelines encouraging them, supporting them in matches. And as a coach, Kim, did you receive any discrimination yourself? Because I remember when you stepped down as a coach and you offered to run the lines, and I witnessed a moment that stuck with me, and it really made me question how far we've come with perceiving women in the sport of football. And that was when I feel like it was a ref, Kim. I might be wrong, but they handed you the flag for you to run the lines, and then I don't know whether they were trying to explain the game to you or made a few comments towards you being a woman and not understanding much about the game, when in hindsight, you probably understood more than most of us about the rules and regulations of football. Can you explain a bit more about that scenario? Do you remember that, Kim?
Yeah, right.
It really got your back up, that did.
Yeah, there was a couple of good ones, and I'll there's another story that I'll share.
Obviously,
as well.
don't mention names, but scenarios, go for it.
Absolutely no names. So I stepped down from coaching and handed over, and there's a whole various raft of reasons, but I was always there, always happy to support, and I actually quite enjoyed running the line. And I'm a woman, but I do understand the offside rule.
Absolutely.
Although I think a lot of us struggle with the offside rule with these new bloody rules that the FA have brought in, and it's like, we don't have VAR in grassroots. We don't know, we can't do that. But anyway, they were looking for somebody to run the line, and I said, yeah, I'll do it. I have no problem running the line. Again, I'm a coach. I'm a level 1 coach. So the referee came over to me and he said, I understand you're going to be running the line. And I said, yeah, I'm going to run. And he said to me, do you know what you're doing? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm a level 1 coach. I think I know what I'm doing, and I'd be a little bit worried if I was a level 1 coach and didn't know what I'm doing. Now, you do understand the offside rule, don't you? Yes, mate, I understand the offside rule. Don't worry about it.
Now, would he have said that if he was handing the flag over to a man?
He handed the flag over to a man who was running the line for the other team, and he certainly didn't say that.
Of course he didn't.
He didn't. There was another incident as well. Would this have happened if I was a woman? Would it have been worse if I wasn't a woman? I don't know. But there was a match that I was running the line for at one time, and the team that I was running the line for, we were getting beat, I think about 6 or 7-0, coming towards the end of the game. And one of their girls, got the ball in an offside position and was running on and was going to be on goal. I flagged for it to be offside, and the manager, who was quite close to me at the time, came running over to me, screaming in my face, so close that I could feel the spit off his venom, and he just said, you need to play the game fair. This isn't how it should play. She wasn't offside. And I said, well, for starters, you weren't in line with her. I was, so I do know whether she was offside or not. And I said, don't you think I know what I'm doing? I said, I've been coaching alongside you for years, and you know that I know the rules of the game. So I think maybe it probably would have been a lot worse if I had have been a bloke and he hadn't agreed with me. However, would he have disagreed with me
in the first
if
place?
I had have been a bloke?
Probably not.
I do get a lot. I've run the line quite a few times, and I do get a lot of comments. Oh, it's a woman running the line. I wonder if she knows what she's doing. But I do also get a lot of comments saying, oh, it's a woman running the line. How refreshing to see.
Oh,
that.
right, okay, yeah.
But that normally comes from women.
yeah.
But
yeah.
I've had instances where my brother, again, I mentioned to you, he runs a boys football team, and they had a really bad match once, and my brothers, should I say, run the football team, and my other brother was running the line for them, and there was a real bad argy-bargy with it. My brother said to me, look, I've got them again. Would you mind running the line for me? I said, yeah, no problem. And he said, are you sure you're going to be all right? I said, I haven't got any problem with it at all. I know what I'm doing. And if they're not happy with me, then I'm going to stand up and say to them, okay, you come and do it then. The problem that you've got is it takes a certain amount of confidence to be able to do that. And there's so many parents who will do it and get so much grief for running the line and making a mistake. There's those, generally speaking, those people who are quite happy to complain about you are not ones that are willing to stand up and help out.
No, I totally agree with you. And, some people might go, well, if I'm a woman running the line, I'm getting abuse. It's part and parcel. It shouldn't be part and parcel, should it?
Nobody should be getting abuse.
It shouldn't be.
I mean, there's a huge issue with referees at the moment. There's, we have a lot of, not just in our area, in the country, there's a lot of young kids, age 14, they can qualify and train to be a referee. And what you tend to get is the youngsters will referee the under 8s, under 9s, under 10s. They can only referee 1 year group below them. They can't referee their age group and above. They can referee 1 year group and then below that. The amount of abuse that our kids
there's been a particular incident, hasn't there, recently?
There was one recently which was a futsal one where there was a young girl, 15-year-old girl that was refereeing, and a coach came running onto the pitch and absolutely screaming at her, what, would you do that to one of your kids if they made a mistake in the game?
Exactly that.
It's just, things like that are not acceptable.
I know her parents, and they were absolutely disgusted, and she was quite traumatised as well by it, as rightly so. You know,
she would be.
It's just crazy.
Would they have done that if that was a guy? I think they probably would have. Should they have done that because it was a girl? Absolutely no, they shouldn't. But they shouldn't do that anyway. No child should be subjected to that. No referee, whether you're an adult or not, should be subjected to that.
No, I totally agree with you. Now, it's no secret that there's been a notable decrease in pay between male and female football players. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Personally, as a woman, I want to gain my own recognition. I never want to have anything handed to me on a plate. And anything that I earn because I earn it. And any person would rightfully say that.
Surely, yeah.
Ultimately, you need to look at let's look at our men's football, for example. They get paid what they get paid because that's the money that they're bringing into their club. That's the money that the sponsors are paying, and you need to look at that exposure. Women are getting paid what they're getting paid because of the exposure that they're getting, because of the sponsorships and things like that. Women have got some way to earn somewhere near where the men are earning, but they should be earning that themselves. They shouldn't be expecting handouts, and I would never ever advocate for that. So it does come. Unfortunately, it comes down to sponsorship and exposure and
is
things
that what
like
it's more about then? Is it, Kim?
That's my understanding. I could be completely wrong.
Okay.
But if you look at the women's football, the Euros and the World Cup and things like that, it didn't attract as much sponsorship as the men's game does because obviously sponsors are going to spend a lot more money on the men's game because it's more popular.
Right.
So then the women can only be paid a percentage of what that game is actually bringing in. I've got no problems with that at all. However, our clubs, our sponsors, our Premier League clubs have got a responsibility to support the growth in the game.
Definitely.
Because actually those women have supported those clubs to grow previously, and they've got a massive responsibility to support grassroots as well, and that's not happening.
So what do you think needs to change in terms of financial support for women's football to make the sport more equal? I'm sure it's not just as simple as women need a pay rise. It ain't as simple as that, is it, Kim?
No,
like you said, they
want to earn it, and and that there's nothing wrong with that. And I think what needs to change is the attitudes to it.
Yes.
And again, I go back to this, but you look on social media and the misogyny that's out there is just unbelievable. A woman can't pick up. I don't want to watch women's football. Don't watch it then.
Simple.
Do you know what? Don't comment if you're not interested in it. Don't do it. But that doesn't help anybody. That negativity doesn't do anybody any favours. If it doesn't interest you, fine, crack on.
Totally.
There's a lot of things that don't interest me, but I don't specifically go out of my way to comment on it and make somebody feel bad about it.
Yeah, no, I totally
Those
agree.
are the sorts of things that need to change. And only by, and I think a lot of these people that make these comments or, are downbeat about it, they don't have girls whose lives have changed as a result of that sport.
Yes.
And that's the difference. If they had daughters, if they had wives that's lives had changed as a result of that sport, then they would probably think very, very, very
I totally
differently.
agree with you. I mean, giving an example of my daughter, before she joined the team, she was very reserved, little confidence, and, joining to the team that she joined and, having yourself as a coach, the difference in that girl, I'm not saying straight away, but 6 months down the line, man, I couldn't believe it. She's shouting at, man on, and she's, they're shouting all this and doing this. And I was just literally just like, wow. Yeah. It was just like something's drastically changed here. And it's not fluke. This, it's a good, well, it's basically a good example of having a team and having a coach that believes in you, because it makes all the difference, Kim.
It sounds like a real cliche, but it's changed lives. Football's changed my life. It's given me, during the pandemic, during lockdown, actually watching football, I think we watched every single game that was going. It was actually really quite sad, and we became quite obsessed with it. When we got back and got the girls back out playing football, and this will be the same with the boys as well, but got everybody back out playing football, it gave them another purpose again. At that point, I was able to get my son involved in the coaching because he was a little bit older, and he started joining the team and started helping out in the coaching. My son's actually turned that into a job now.
That's amazing.
That's his job. He works for a local company. He does PE in schools, and he helps run a girls' football team now.
Fantastic.
And he absolutely loves it. And it's changed lives. It gave my kids purpose. It gave me a purpose. you know, I've met people that I never would have met if it wasn't through the football, you know, and, you know, like yourselves, our daughters, they've met people that they never would have met through the football. And it's changed that game. It saves lives. How can that be a bad thing?
No, and it's like, you know, especially with that particular team, I know there's teams out there where the girls all go to the same school, but especially with that particular team, you know, it was whatever dramas they've got going on in school.
Yeah.
They can turn to that, they can go to that pitch and leave all them worries from school behind because it's a different set of girls. Yeah. And my daughter genuinely seen them girls as a family, and she still does, to be honest with you. Yeah. She really does, Kim, and that's an amazing feeling.
Yeah. I mean, our daughters don't play football together anymore. My daughter's is in a different team.
But they're still very close.
They would not have been friends 100% if it wasn't for football.
I agree.
And, you know, actually, because they're a very different friend group. Yep. I wouldn't say they're very different people, but just very different friend group. Yep. And that's what girls are like. But that football brought them closer together. But, you know, we've had a dreadful incident recently within our football team where very, very sadly one of our girls passed away a couple of weeks ago, very unexpectedly. You know, and it absolutely rocked our team to the core, and that's really, really sad. But I tell you what, those girls have pulled together.
Have they?
And they, you know, and the parents as well. But you know, we didn't, you know, the coach made an amazing decision not to put training on relatively soon afterwards. But what he did say is, we're going to go out for a walk, and all the girls got together and went for a walk, and you know, that bonding that they had, and you know, with that poor girl who passed away, you know, my daughter wouldn't have been friends with her, but they were teammates, and it's a different bond. And those girls that are playing football together, there's something quite unique what they understand about one another that you wouldn't understand about one another if it wasn't for that. And anybody who plays any type of team sports would say exactly the same thing, boys and girls. That's got to be a good thing, because Surely. It's so tough for everybody out there right now. So that's why, you know, we need to encourage girls football a lot
100%. Now, looking to opportunities for women in football, what do you think could be done to increase participation and investment in women's football at grassroots level, Kim?
So we've talked about this a little bit more. I think primary school, it needs to start a lot earlier. You go to primary school and you know, boys are kicking a ball at a very young age. You know, I think starting girls at a younger age and supporting them to play football and encouraging them so that they can see that they can play football at that younger age is really, really beneficial. We do find that girls come into football a little bit later. I think it starts to sort of explode at around under nines. Boys football, they're playing from, you know, little kickers upwards. You know, they're wanting to play football from, you know, 5-6 years old. Girls aren't getting the same opportunity, and I think that's because they don't get the same exposure. So I think that's something that can help. But I think there's also something that, you know, people like myself, women like myself who've been involved in football for many, many years, then we've got a responsibility to make sure that our girls are getting those opportunities as well.
Definitely.
Like I said, I can't play football. I can't kick a ball to save my life. I'm definitely not the best coach in the world, but I'm a good manager. And knowing that there's a role for you, even if you know that you can't coach, there is a role for us, and our girls need to see those role models, and they need to know that they can. Yeah. But we need to give them the opportunity to know that they can. I totally agree,
Kim. Now, I think you might have answered my next one with that, but how do you believe football clubs and organisations could provide more opportunities for women in coaching, refereeing and other roles, Kim, besides actually playing the game?
I know when I started coaching for Wrekin juniors, there was only myself and Lisa that were the female coaches at the time. We've got a few more female coaches that have got involved, and I think that's been really good. When I did my level 1 course, it was an in-person course, and I was the only woman that was there doing that. But I'm the type of person that type of thing doesn't bother me. Yeah. But a lot of women that it would, so they wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable. I know, you know, and big shout to our Shropshire FA on this one, and I'm sure many other FAs do that, is that they put women's only coaching courses on, or when it was in person anyway, if it was relevant. But a lot of the courses are done online now. There was also an opportunity where they do women's only FA refereeing coaching.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's a really, really good thing to do. It's going to take time. I think, you know, when you're looking at going through the leagues, it's not going to change massively until we get our first female coach in the Men's Premier League. I think as soon as we get our first female coach in the Men's Premier League, I think things will snowball considerably. We've got a lot of men's coaches in the women's league, in the WSL and the leagues, in the different tiers that are there, and that's fine. As long as they're the right person for the job, it shouldn't matter whether they're a man or a woman.
What do you think can be like the biggest, aside from gender, what do you think can be the biggest cultural barriers that may still exist that stop women from playing football? Straight away, I'm thinking religion. I could be wrong, but I'm not sure whether certain religions may not agree with it, and it may not be down to the fact that they're female. It just may be the fact that, they can't participate in football. Have you ever had any experiences of anything like that, down to religion or anything else?
No, not really. I think if I look back at the teams that I've been involved in and that we've coached, in that respect, it's actually not been very diverse.
Oh, okay.
I would say I don't think we've had anywhere near enough diversity. I think there's a lot more diversity in the men's game than there is in the women's game. But again, I don't think that's about it, being, racist or anything like that. I think it's just that lack of opportunity, and that's not saying that women from different religions and things can't play football. They're just not exposed to it in the same way.
Yeah, I get that.
And I think that is a difficulty regardless, and I don't know enough about it to make enough comment on it.
Fine,
and
Kim, yeah.
But I think it's difficult enough to get women playing the game.
Yes.
But then when you take race and religion and anything else like that into account, I think that can make things 10 times more difficult.
Yes, 100%. Can you think of any women in football that may have inspired you or have been instrumental in advocating for women's rights in this sport? Now, off the top of my head, Kim, there was one that I was thinking of. One that I remember was the Stevenage FC captain, Lucy Webster. She approached the media to speak out about the importance of normalising, I can't even say the word, Kim, normalising I still haven't got it right. Anyway, you know what I mean. Football for young girls, reflecting on her own experiences of being the only girl in a boys' team for like close to 10 years. Can you think of anyone else that's...
Yeah, there's a few women that are shouting out, and being perimenopausal, my brain is absolutely shocking at the moment. Eni Aluko is absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that don't like listening to her commentate, and I have absolutely no idea why, but I think she is absolutely incredible. And then there's the other lady that commentates on the BBC an awful lot. She's dating Jess Glynn. I can remember Jess Glynn's name, but I can't for the life of me. Oh, God, what's her name? I've got a book in my car as well.
And she commentates on what?
She commentates on the BBC an awful lot. Oh, she did BBC Sports Personality of the Year. I can see her, but my mind has gone
my fingers have never gone so fast, Kim, on this Google.
Blank.
Alex Scott.
That's it. Alex Scott is incredible. And she has got, if anybody ever gets a chance to read her autobiography, the discrimination that she faced, the difficulty that she faced growing up, trying to play football, only being able to play in the boys' teams to start off with, and then actually getting to play in the girls' football. What she does for girls' football is absolutely incredible. She knows her stuff. She knows what she's talking about. So people like Alex Scott and Eni Aluko are just absolutely incredible, and they're people that I really look up to and admire.
I feel like I'm going to have to check out that book, or at least pass it to my daughter to have a read.
Yeah, it's a brilliant book. Definitely a brilliant book.
So what advice would you give to young women aspiring to pursue a career in football, given the current challenges and opportunities nowadays?
Don't give up. If it's something you want to do, just do it. What's stopping you? What people say? Who cares what people say? You're not hurting anybody. You're actually, if you don't pursue something that you love, you're only hurting yourself.
That's sterling advice there, Kim.
So what is stopping you? What? Because some bloke or some woman thinks that you shouldn't be doing it. For what reason? Why? Give me a reason why you shouldn't be doing it. There is no reason. The opportunities are there. They're coming, and they're coming a lot more than they used to. So, you only need to look at the opportunities for girls' football, after school, college, and the academies that they've started to open. And, go for it. If you want to do it, go for it. It just takes one person to change something. Definitely.
And what do you think the future holds for women in football, and how optimistic are you, Kim, about the long-term progress for gender equality in sport?
it's a really difficult one, because if you look at football alone, women's football is so far behind men's football, and it's never going to be at the same level as men's football. Personally, I don't think. We're 50 years behind. It's going to take a long time to get there. You need to look, actually, during the World War, men's football stopped because obviously men were out and you know, they were out fighting. They were also, you had to, you know, conscription, that was it. They're, you know, conscripted to play, to fight in the war and everything. So actually they put the women's football teams together then, and men that were based at home were going to watch women's football teams.
I read that last night.
Yeah, because there was no opportunity for them to go and watch men's football teams. They went and watched the women's football teams. And as soon as the war was over and the men came back, they banned it all and they stopped it all. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No.
I think women's football is going in the right direction. I think, you know, the last few years, especially not because of me, but I've noticed a big change since I've been involved in football and how much more opportunities there are. I think it takes the people like Alex Scott and Ialuko who've come through to actually prove, yes, I can do this. You know, the Mary Earps of this world, Chloe Kelly, you know, they're actually becoming the poster girls now, and they're the girls that young girls are aspiring to be. We need more of that. We need more of those household names, and there's nothing wrong with that. The funding is incredibly important, and the opportunities through grassroots as well. We need to acknowledge, in order to grow grassroots, we need to grow the facilities, because the facilities are in place, with all due respect, to accommodate the boys' teams. And as we're starting to grow the girls' games, we're starting to struggle with the facilities. That's not the boys' fault or anything like that. I don't mean it that way, but we need to considerably invest in the facilities for that to be able to happen.
Totally agree with you, Kim. Now, it would be wrong for us to navigate through this podcast without mentioning, although you have mentioned them a few times, without mentioning our very own England Lionesses and everything that they have achieved within the sport of football. Now, the England Lionesses were originally formed in 1972 and is one of the oldest women's football team in the world. Now, the Lionesses went on to win the UEFA Women's Euro in 2022, defeating Germany 2-1 after extra time in the final at Wembley Stadium, and this marked their first major international tournament victory. Do you believe that their victories have contributed to helping to break down barriers in women's football? And did you find that there was a strong intake of young girls looking to take part in grassroots from that?
Massively. I think, you know, we've talked about this quite a lot, about the media supporting, and I think the media really took that on board and really helped to promote what the women's football team were doing. I think I think in terms of, you know, the popularity of that, even amongst young boys as well, they saw what the women were achieving, and there was a lot of chatter out there about, well, our women can do it, why can't our men do it? I don't agree with that. Again, it's comparing apples with pears.
True.
Our men's team have been very successful in their own right, but it's a very, very different game. But again, you know, you get a lot of chatter out there that were saying, well, the women didn't have as much competition as the men's team do. It doesn't work like that.
No.
The women are competitive at their own level and at top of their own game compared to the other teams that they're facing. But we saw such an influx of girls after the women's Euros. But it also changed a lot of boys and men's perception of the game as well. There's a lot of people said, you know, actually, the women's game is pretty good. I'm enjoying watching this. And that's absolutely fine. If you still don't enjoy watching it, that's absolutely fine. There's a lot of women that don't like watching it. That's cool.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yo, this is Miss Represent, and you're listening to the Dribbz Talks podcast on Spotify and YouTube. Keep it locked.
So, moving away from the sport of football then, Kim, and looking to women's rights in general across society, how do you think that the lack of female representation in politics and leadership roles can impact policies regarding women's rights? I'm going deep here, Kim. I'm sorry.
Do you know what? I'm going to make one comment, one statement on this. There's a lot of... Am I allowed to swear?
Of course you are. It's raw and uncut.
There's a lot of shit going on in this world right now. Oh, God. These wars and these men that are leading these countries. Would it be different if women were in charge?
Well...
Do you know what? I think there'd be a different set of issues. Being honest, I think there would be a different set of issues. Again, like I said before, this is not about men against women or anything like that.
It seems like the things the things that are being authorized and confirmation of things is more like a dent in their masculinity. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, that's controversial.
Yeah, do you know what? That's controversial. Do you know what? I think in order for there to be true equality against certain things, access to sport, access to all sorts of different things, I think you need equal representation.
Yes, bang on.
Because you can't, with all due respect, women don't understand men properly and men don't understand women. We are from Mars and they are from Venus.
Do you know what? I get this a lot, Kim. I'm sorry to interrupt you there. I get this a lot. Like, as you know, like I advocate for men's mental health and I do so much behind the scenes that actually, although I put a lot on social media, there's also a lot of stuff I do that I don't put on social media, helping other men that, my landline will ring at silly o'clock at night and, I'll speak to someone that's close to breaking point and stuff, and yeah, I've had a few comments along the way from women that have said, you do all this for men's mental health, why don't you do it for women's? Kim, I don't understand women at the best of times, so like for me to support them with mental health.
It's true. I think, do you know what? I think there is something that men can contribute to women in that respect, and I think there's something that women can contribute to men in that respect. True. And it's about having that balance. But I don't understand how a men's mind works, and they don't understand how my mind works.
I don't think we understand ourselves, to be honest.
I don't understand how especially when you start getting a perimenopausal or a menopausal woman, all bets are off for everything. They're even off for us. But it's about having that equal opportunity and actually understanding and be prepared to listen to one another.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's not going to affect your standing in your life or your standing in the world stage, for God's sake. Just grow a pair and get on with it.
Definitely, Kim. How do you think society can ensure that women are not judged based on their appearance or the clothing choices that they wear when they're in public spaces?
Oh my days.
Because that's another big one, Oh, she's wearing a skirt. She was asking for trouble. She was asking to be attacked.
Do you know what? I was thinking about this on the way up here, and I think that's a big problem with women in football. And there are some. There's a lot of comments that will go on about, well, she looks like a bloke, doesn't she? And playing football and things like that. And oh God, she's a pretty one. I'd do her. It's totally inappropriate. How you're going to change this? There's so much that goes, I can't wear that because I'll people will talk about me, or people will say that. It's even more so for our young people. I think social media has so much to answer to. I'm not going to go into it, but you just need to look at people like Andrew Tate and the misogynistic views that people like that have got.
Yep.
There is no place for it in society anymore. And I think the one thing that I would say is, would you want your partner or your daughters being spoke to or having those sorts of things happen to them? If the answer is no, then why would you do it yourself?
Exactly that. It's
that simple. That women are not just a piece of meat. Women can be very bad towards men as well, and I've seen that, but it's not acceptable. But again, it's a generational thing, I'm afraid.
It really
and I
is.
think there's a lot of young boys that are growing up with those types of views from their parents. And some of the language that I use, my daughter, like, you can't use that language, that's not how you do it. And it's very difficult for people to change, but there's a lot of change that needs to happen.
There is.
It's quite sad.
What do you think about the difference? I mean, what do you personally think the difference is between gender equality and women's empowerment? I mean, to me, let me give you a little example. Like, I don't know whether I've got this bang on, Kim, because I am a bloke with certain ways, but gender equality to me is when their rights or opportunities are unaffected by their gender, right? Mm-hmm. And then empowerment to me is their sense of self-worth, their right to make their own choices, and their right to have the power to control their own lives. I mean, am I right in saying that, or would you say?
No, I'd probably agree with that. And I think where it gets confused is that people then look at feminists and think feminists are anti-men, and I think that's where the problem then comes. What you will find is that a lot of women are looking for equality. It doesn't mean that they want better opportunities than men. It means that they want the same opportunities as men. You only need to look at the law that they were trying to bring in. I think it was in the news a couple of weeks ago. Whereas if a woman or if somebody is to be tried, they need a pre-sentence report. in order, and that pre-sentence report has to be taken into consideration if they're an ethnic minority or if they're a woman. So a white middle-class man doesn't get a pre-sentencing report, and that doesn't get taken into consideration. It's discrimination.
Wow.
It's inequality.
Please tell me that weren't passed.
It's something that the Law Society have decided was going to happen, so the Labour Party are challenging it.
Oh, jeez.
And that you know, this is a woman, it would favour me, and not that I'm ever going to get done in prison or anything, well, I'd hope not anyway, but that would favour me. But that's not right.
No.
It's not fair, and it's unequal. But again, this is what women have been fighting for.
Yeah.
And it's just so difficult. I work in a very, very male-dominated environment, and by God, it's hard. You know, I recently went for a job interview, and I have to be very, very careful what I say at this point. But I recently went for a job interview, and I had a number of recruiters that were contacting me. And the one recruiter said, I've got to be honest with you, but some of the women that go for sales jobs have been the best candidates for the role. And I said, you do know why that is, don't you? And he said, no, I haven't got a clue. And I said, because women have to work harder in order to even get on that same level, to get that same recognition. You know, and you will get a lot of people says, no, I don't get that. I don't have that happen to me. Because you've never been in that position, mate. I've seen it, and I have it happen to me. And it is bloody hard out there. But this is not about you getting lack of opportunity, because me as a woman, I want more opportunity. This is about having the same opportunity.
Absolutely.
But that discrimination, it is rife.
See, mine was quite the opposite. With my last workplace, there was 5 males and close to 300 women.
Yeah.
And, you know, you get them comments from friends and other men. Oh, I bet you love it with all them women and stuff. But it was hard, Kim. I'm not going to lie to you. It was hard. I mean, I do get on with women, you know. As I said, being brought up by a single mom, and, you know, I've got so much respect for women like you wouldn't believe. Do you know what I mean? There's not an ounce of me that has no respect for women. I've got so much respect for women, as much as I have respect for men. But yeah, it was hard, Kim. It was hard. It
is hard, and this is what I'm saying. This is why, you know, there's inequalities in both ways. There's discrimination in both ways, and it works both ways. And people like yourself, you could understand where a woman would be coming from in a male-dominated environment. It's more common that women get that type of discrimination and get that. But men get it too. That absolutely. And like I said, this is not about men versus women, because it's not. This is about equality, and then this is about those opportunities that you were saying.
Definitely.
You know, I'm very much about I'm not a woman. I'm a person looking for an opportunity. Personally, I don't agree with them and they. I'm a woman, and I'm proud of that. But equally, I should just be able to have the same opportunity, and I will strive and work damn hard to get that opportunity the same as any other person would.
Definitely. And finally then, Kim, what do you hope that my listeners take away from this podcast?
That women's football has a place, that there is opportunity for it, that it saves lives. It's not a bad thing, and that actually we should be encouraging it and supporting our young ladies to actually go out there and play if that's what they want to do. It is not harming you. It is not harming your life. Go out there, support it, watch it, have a look at it. If you don't like it, that's cool. Keep your mouth shut.
Yep.
You know, don't discourage other people. But then equally, please don't think all feminists are them and us situation. It's, you know, that's not how it is. And please try and understand a little bit more, but go out and support your local grassroots. Understand that there is a place for it for women, that women's football has got a place, and all it needs is that little bit more support for us to grow, because there's enough space out there for everybody.
And this is it, you know, like, for the benefit of the listeners, like, I'm sure you understand it by now in the passion and you know, every explanation that Kim's give here. Like, I actually thought you might be stuck on a few of these, Kim, but you've given some sterling answers on here, so well done.
Rambled
you.
a bit, probably.
No. I like that. I need you to ramble. It's all the last thing I want is one-word answers, because that would make my job a little bit harder.
Okay.
So you've done really well, but it's less about, you know, Kim's not sat here to say women should have all the glory with football and men shouldn't. She's saying women should have equal. And you know, and that's dead important. And support your grassroots, man. It's dead important to, you know, if you've got any interest in that, you know, that's kind of the starting basis and the foundations for football in general, really. You know, all these footballers have started off in grassroots. You know, none of them have started halfway and then gone to the top. They've all kind of started from the bottom and worked their way up. And as Kim said, there is so many benefits to grassroots football, like you wouldn't believe. You know, resilience, working within a team, discipline. The list goes on. I can't think of any off the top of my head now, but they're kind of the main ones that I found with my daughter that's benefited her. And a good coach, Kim, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass there. You know, a good coach makes all the difference, you know. But so that is the last part of the podcast on that topic, Kim, but you're not quite finished yet, because this is my favourite part of the show here, Kim. These are quick fire questions. There's no right or wrong answer. You can choose to pass, Kim, but judging by your answers recently, I don't think you're going to pass these,
Don't
Kim.
forget, I'm perimenopausal, so
yeah, okay, it's all right.
My mind goes blank.
I'll go easy with you, honestly. These are fun questions, Kim. They're not. I'm not asking you to tell me when the Battle of Hastings were. Although
1066.
everyone knows the Battle of Hastings date, don't they? Yeah, I don't even truly know what the Battle of Hastings was, but I know it was in 1066. The date just sticks in my head. Anyway, right, let's get to it. My favourite part of the show. So you can choose to pass, Kim. Don't worry about it but I don't think you'll be passing. Right, then. First one, Kim. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
To travel in time.
Oh, nice. See, the most common answer I get off all my guests is invincibility. They always say it, but that's a cool one. I like that. If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It depends what sort of a day I'm having.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, God. Lasagna, probably. It's a bit of a go-to.
I like lasagna. If you could have one song play each time you walked into a room for the rest of your life, so every time you walked into that room, ping, that song would play, what would it be? Can I
choose two?
Of course you can.
Okay, so
maybe that'll be on the entrance and the exit.
Right, okay, so the first one is Amazing by George Michael.
Okay,
it's a special song for me and my son. And then the second one would be Noel Gallagher, If I Had a Gun.
Nice, I like that one. That's a good one by Noel Gallagher. Oh, you thought of another one here.
Yeah.
A third one. How many entrance and exits have we got here, Kim?
Yeah, this one might be for in the middle.
Go on, chuck it in.
Liquor and Cigarettes, Chasing Status.
Hey, come on. Come on, Kim. If you could snoop through one person's private life, who would it be, Kim? Can be anyone in the world.
Oh my God, Donald Trump. Let's do it.
No, that would be interesting. Have you, this is a bit cliche, Kim, it depends if you believe in it, if you don't, but have you ever had a paranormal or an unexplained experience in your life, Kim? Something that you can't explain how or why that happened?
I haven't, but my ex-husband had.
Explain, come on, Kim.
Oh gosh, I don't know how much I can say. Oh, no, I can say, can't I? So his best mate was killed in a road traffic accident quite a few years ago, and he was at work on late, and he didn't know at that time, and he'd gone to bed, and because he had to get up really early for a shift, and we had a phone call at home, and he came running down the stairs, and he said, I know he's been killed. And I'm like, well, how the heck do you know? Because I was literally just on the phone. And so he knew. He went to see his family because he was very, very close to them. And he came home, and when he came into bed that night, he said, I won't say the guy's name. He said, he was with me tonight as I was walking through the woods. And I don't feel that, but he gets, my ex-husband gets quite a lot of those types of things. And I think my kids get some of that as well.
Wow.
There's so much I could talk to you about that.
That's interesting, Kim. Wow. I love stuff like that.
And me.
Have you ever had a celebrity crush, and who is it? I'm sure, a lot of my guests say, I've had loads, but who's your main celebrity crush, Kim?
Again, it depends what sort of a day I'm having.
Do you know what Lively said?
What? Go on.
Lee said... Do you know that dry programme that's on in the days called A Place in the Sun? You work, Kim, so you probably don't even see it. Lively was like, every female in the Place in the Sun. And I'm like, everyone. Lee was like, everyone. If they've got a bit of skirt, I like it.
Oh, Lee, what are you doing, mate? Oh, what are you doing? I don't tend to have celebrity crushes. There's different people that I do like and stuff. I probably look at more like men that I would admire and stuff. So it's not really a crush, but Harrison Ford. Mm-hmm. There's a real crunch for Harrison Ford. So anything that he does, anywhere that he's about, I just, and I think that's partly because as I was growing up, he reminded me a little bit of my dad. It's not a crush.
No,
I don't have that. I mean, there's some bloody gorgeous men out there, of course there are, but yeah, that's probably.
What's your favourite book, Kim, if you even read, and why does it resonate with you?
Stephen King fairy tale.
Oh, right, okay. You into Stephen King, are you?
I don't read a huge amount. My daughter, she's just an absolute bookworm.
Bless her.
And, hers would be Pride and Prejudice straight away. The reason Stephen King, I saw the synopsis of it and I sort of read the back and I thought that's really something that I could get into. And it was very much, it's not a horror at all. It's more fantasy.
Okay.
And it just gripped me right from the beginning. It's such an incredible story. So if anybody ever gets a chance to read that, I really recommend it.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Control the controllables.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that.
So you know, there are a lot of things in life that you can't control. You've got to a degree, let those go, but there will be elements within that you can control. So take responsibility and take charge for the elements that you can control. Like
that, Kim. What's the weirdest talent that you've got?
Oh my God, my farts are amazing.
Are they?
Yeah.
Can you fart in tune?
I can burp in tune sometimes.
Has that took many years of mastering, Kim?
It does depend what's going on, to be honest.
Poor Scott. Poor Scott. My heart goes out to him.
No, he's all good.
He probably matches it knowing him.
No.
No, he doesn't.
No, I'm worse.
Oh, are you? Okay. If you had a time machine, Kim, would you fix your past mistakes or would you see your future?
Never fix my past mistakes.
I like that.
Everything happens for a reason.
Love that.
Never regret anything. I've actually got a tattoo on my back that says "Live life without regrets." It's a bit of a twee thing to do. I don't think I'd want to see my future either.
Yeah, it's quite a scary thing, isn't it?
I don't think I'd want to see either. Other people's futures, yeah, but not mine.
Yeah. Okay. Can you talk about a mentor or someone who has played quite a significant role in your life, Kim?
My mum.
Yeah. Your mum's lovely.
Do you know what? I think a lot of people say that. My mum, for various reasons, my mum went through a lot. My mum went through an awful lot of shit. And we went through a lot of it together. And she was the first strong, resilient woman that I actually came across in my life. So her for that reason. And then my kids. Oh, my kids.
I know they're your world, aren't they?
Yeah. They are most people's, but they're something special.
Yeah. What's the strangest food combination that you enjoy, which others might find a bit strange, Kim? See, I don't know if you agree with this, I have mayonnaise with everything. I have eggs with mayonnaise. I have mayonnaise with everything.
Oh, you sound like my husband.
Honestly, I do.
I don't think I have any strange food combinations, to be honest. I mean, I have Marmite on toast every single morning without fail.
Strange.
I've had that literally since I was a kid.
Have you really?
Yeah, literally without fail, Marmite on toast. I'm 45 now. Literally with that. So maybe that's a strange thing.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay. What's the weirdest smell that you've ever smelt apart from your own farts, Kim?
My own farts are ace. Right, this is gross. Sometimes when I'm out walking and you walk past a certain tree and it smells smells like cum. That's probably the weirdest smell I've ever had. Sorry, guys.
It's all right. It's raw and uncut. I told you this. The cum tree.
The cum
tree.
So
yeah. So Kim likes to sniff the cum tree.
No, Kim doesn't.
What's the most bizarre dream that you've ever had? Yeah, is this going to go X-rated as well, Kim? Is this going to involve cum trees?
No, definitely not. Do you know what? The most bizarre dream that I've ever had, and this is a reoccurring dream that I get from when I was a kid, going into my grandparents' bungalow. They used to live on the gasworks in Wellington. So in my dream, I walked into their bungalow and their bungalow was full of washing machines. And I just remember these washing machines being stacked up. And that was a really bizarre dream. And I still have that as a reoccurring dream now.
Wow.
What's that all about?
Yeah.
Don't know.
They say dreams have reasons, don't they? But I don't know. I don't know what you believe in. I used to have, it's only recently, well, I say recently stopped properly the past 5 years, but I used to have a dream since I was a child. And I don't know if it's got a meaning, but I used to fall down the stairs and every single step I'd feel until the last step. And the last step I'd wake up every time. Every time. Strange.
Weird.
Yeah, very strange. If you could choose an animal as a battle companion, if you were to go to battle and you needed an animal with you, which one would you choose, Kim?
Oh, my dog Dexty.
Oh.
He's not with us anymore, but he was the most loyalist, amazing, and he would have killed anything and anyone to protect me.
You. Yeah, of course he would have. If you could master one language, Kim, what would it be?
German.
Okay. The most common answer across all 20 of my guests now has been Japanese, or Chinese, them kind of things.
German, because at the moment I work for an Austrian company, so they speak German, so I've had a lot of that, and I know some little phrases, and I did do some night classes, so it'd be something that actually I would, if I could, I'd like to continue with.
Last 2 questions, and this one might be a bit controversial. I don't know how much you can out someone on this, but what's the weirdest thing a guest has done in your house, Kim, in all the years that you've had properties?
Oh my God. What's the weirdest thing that a guest has ever done in my
Can I tell you
house?
livelies? Because this one made me laugh.
Go on, what's Lee done?
So, when he met his lovely wife at the Butter Market many years ago, the lovely Jodie, actually it was quite a nice story really, because he met Jodie at this particular event at the Butter Market, and it was one of my really good friends that put the event on, which it was just really nice to hear that that's where their kind of love story started. But Jodie had this I'm sure I've got this right, Lee, so if I got it wrong tell me, but Jodie had this friend with her, and this friend kept grabbing his groin while he was performing, and Lee said to Jodie, if you get rid of your friend, I'll buy you a drink. So she went and took her friend off. But she said that same friend, Lee, woke up one night, I guess, to that friend sucking his big toe.
Oh my God, I can't beat that.
I mean, yeah, whatever you're into, like, but yeah, that pretty much blew me away, Kim, to be honest. But yeah, it takes all sorts, doesn't it? But yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to have to pass on that.
That's fine.
I genuinely don't know.
Okay, that's good. You only passed one thing. That's good.
Wow,
that's
I
good.
don't know. I'll come back to. I'll probably text you later. I'll be like, I remember what it was.
I've thrown 19 questions at you, so you're only passing one. That's cool. And finally, Kim, what sport do you find a little bit silly and have trouble understanding why others enjoy it? Let's see if you have the same answer as a lot of my guests.
I don't understand the difference between rugby union and rugby league.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's different.
I don't get that. So people will probably shout at me now, but that's the one thing that springs to mind.
The most common answer from my guests is golf. They can't understand golf. They hate it.
Yeah.
And F1.
My kids love F1, so
they?
they'd kill me if I said that. But yeah, I don't understand the difference between rugby league and rugby union.
See, I have friends that spend a lot of money going to F1, and like, to me, Kim, I think it's absolutely pointless, because they take signs, and they stand there and the cars go, and then they're like, right, 7 minutes till they come round again.
But some people absolutely love it, and again,
I guess it's soaking up the atmosphere, isn't it, Kim?
Yeah, why not? I've never been to an F1 race, and it's not something that interests me in the slightest. Like I said, my kids love it, and it kind of does get a little bit interesting, but I'm like, nah, whatever, nah. I agree with the whole golf. Do you know what? Fishing. Why would anybody... My dad's a fisherman. Sorry, Pop. Oh, God, it's got to be the most boring thing in the world. And my stepmom goes with him and sits there and watches it. Fair play to them. It doesn't do anybody any harm, but what the heck is that all about?
I mean, some people can sit there for hours and just blank, can't they? Not actually catch anything, Kim? Yeah. And it's like...
You had a good day, Dad? Yeah, it was all right. Didn't catch anything, though. What's the point in that?
He'll have you for that one if by any random way he ends up listening to this podcast. You've got a lot to answer for there, Kim.
I'm sorry, Pop, but I don't like fishing.
Well, Kim, I just want to say you've been an amazing guest, so thank you so much for joining me.
Cheers, Dribbz. Thank you.
Have you enjoyed it?
Me. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Yeah, you've made it really good. Thank you.
I hope so. That's what I try to do.
I hope your listeners enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. There's a lot of my listeners that they listen because it's the podcast and it's a range of topics. So I'm sure someone out there is going to relate, and that's all we're looking for, Kim. Do you know what I mean? If we can get one person to relate, it's job done, innit?
Absolutely. Just one person to think slightly differently, one person to think about something else and think about what you say, and get somebody else into football. Go for it.
Absolutely.
Or another team sports.
Yeah, that's it. So as always, guys, this has been Kim O'Callaghan. O'Callaghan Tate.
O'Callaghan Tate.
O'Callaghan Tate.
Yeah.
I'm so used to saying O'Callaghan and not the Tate part. But obviously you're married now, aren't you? So we have to add that little bit in. Originally I wrote this and I was calling you Kim Tate, and my Becky was like, no, that's not what her name is.
No, I'm proud of my O'Callaghan. There's a lot to get that.
You couldn't let that one go, could you?
No way.
Bless you. So this has been Kim anyway. We're going to leave it at Kim on the Dribbz Talks podcast. thank you so much to everyone that stays with me on this. Keep liking, sharing, subscribing. As I always say, I'm fighting the algorithms on all these bloody social media. So, for you guys to give me a like or a share, which is even better, it takes a couple of seconds of your time. And believe me, it goes a long way. At the moment with these podcasts, I'm small fish in a big pond, but we're trying to build it. And I hope in 6 months to a year time, we're at a very different opportunity. But aside from all that, I have fun with these guests, and that's kind of the main thing, and I learn a lot from these guests. So thank you so much for your time, Kim. Dribbz Talks podcast, keep it locked. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dribbz Talks podcast. We're bringing it to you real, raw and uncut. A safe place where we can talk about anything and everything. So like, share and subscribe. But most importantly, keep it locked. Everything's gonna be just fine, everything's gonna be okay. Just take one step at a time, that's what the leaflets say.